This may just be another casual Friday afternoon for some of you. It may just be an opportunity to hear some people speak that might spark a little bit of a thought for you. But it's far more than that for me. What I'm about to stand here and tell you is an exclamation point on the story that you're about to hear. This is my wife, Lindsay. But before I talk about her and what she means to me, I couldn't go any further without vomiting, and I mean that sincerely, without telling you what Joe Musselman has done for me. Everything that I know, like who you see up here, is a product of Joe Musselman. And I know what I'm a product of. I'm a product of the Honor Foundation. I'm a product of Joe Musselman. I'm a product of some parents who from a young age taught me the value of wisdom and how to think. And so Ralph Waldo Emerson said, the only gift that you can give someone is a product of thyself. So all I can do up here is give you a portion of me that can add some value to you. There's some great content that I have. There's a lot of smart things that I think that I've said, but the only thing that I can give you of substance is a piece of myself. So first I have to start by giving you the most valuable thing that I have to give right now, and that's my time up here. And you use that time to honor Joe for everything that he's done for me. And I know he's done something significant for a lot of the people in this room. And then I want to go on to say that if I say something here that's helpful for your business, that would be fantastic. But everywhere I go when I talk to people. I know businesses are made of people. And what I want more than anything is to help you think a certain way and to help you be a better person. If you can be a better person, you can be a better leader, you can be a far better business owner, you can be a better husband or wife, a better parent. You can change the world by the type of person that you are. Only one of the things that we do in this world is lead businesses. So with that, let me tell you about my wife. And normally I would start with a joke, and I like to do that when my wife is there, because if she was here, she'd be standing in the back doing this, because that's not my gift. I married a woman that is her gift, and I wish she was here, but she's not. And my cute little girl, Grace, gets her own slide because she's so beautiful and wonderful to me. And I show you both of these things just to tell you how fortunate I am. I understand that I'm incredibly fortunate, but I believe that to whom much is given, much is required. And so with everything that I've received in my life, I've just taken that as an opportunity to go and give as much as I can. So having a family, that alone, I think I'm incredibly fortunate. I also have breath in my lungs, which I can't say that about some of the people that I've known in this world. And on top of that, I have a superpower. Legitimately, I have a superpower, and I'm about to tell you about it. When I was a child, though, I used to dream of a superpower that looked a lot like this. Some of you have probably had it. It wasn't until maybe 7th or 8th grade where I quit telling everyone that one day I was going to be able to fly, because I used to have this dream every night where I could fly. And I know a lot of you have had dreams like that. But what I am about to tell you about my superpower today is a lot more incredible than flying. I've actually had the opportunity to fly. It's pretty fun, but it doesn't last for very long. And what I'm going to display for you this morning, what I'm going to attempt to give to you, if I can, is far more powerful than flying. But before I tell you about it, there's an important disclaimer that I have to give you. I call this the burden of knowledge. If you hear what I'm about to tell you and you choose not to accept it, it would be better that you hadn't heard it. And I mean that with all sincerity. So listen to what I'm about to say at your own risk. The superpower that I have, for me to give it to you, you have to understand where it came from. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story. Like I said, I went through the Honor Foundation. I'm a product of Joe Musselman. I'm a product of the Honor Foundation. I had the fortune of being a Navy SEAL. There's a lot of veterans in this room with a way better story than me who served for a lot longer, and some of them paid a far higher price than I did. But I wanted to be a Navy SEAL when I was about to graduate high school. I knew I wanted to serve in the military, and I thought I'd wanted to be a pilot for a little while. And then when I learned about this incredible training of some of the fiercest men on the planet who go through some of the toughest training, I decided that's what I was going to do. Without telling my parents, I told no one, I went and signed up. My parents didn't know until they saw a letter saying I'm not going to be home tonight because I'm going through medical screening. And I got home the next day to the tears of that from my parents. And then instead of keeping it a secret, which I had for a little while, I went and told every person that I knew, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I see for my future. And I know a lot of you in this room have had to stand there and tell people this is what I see, and nobody's believed in you. And maybe the story that I'm about to tell you today is a little bit of confirmation for you. This is when I first felt a glimpse, first felt that tingle, kind of like in the Marvel movies, where you see the story of how a superhero discovers his power. This isn't really about my power. I'm trying to set some people free today. I hope that you can understand what your superpower is by me telling you my story. I first started to feel the glimpse of my superpower, felt the tingle, when, like I said, after I'd signed my contract, I started telling everyone that I knew about it. And from my teachers to my friends to even my recruiter, I heard, "You're crazy." I heard, "How do you know you'll make it?" I heard, "You're arrogant." And for some reason, I saw things a little bit differently than other people. Fast forward a little bit in my story, we're at the very beginning of SEAL training. And I had some peers that wanted to let me know that they thought the probability of success for Garret was especially low. And that's a really nice way of saying that there was a guy he was my roommate, his father was a Navy SEAL, and he told me every day, "You have no chance here." When I would think about a guy named Sir Edmund Hillary, some of you know who he is, he's the first man to climb Mount Everest. I think about how when he went to climb that mountain, he was climbing a literal and figurative mountain of doubt. They didn't even know if it could be done. He's climbing this mountain thinking death may await me. And when I would think about that in light of my training, sure, a lot of people fail out. If you Wikipedia it says 9% of people make it through SEAL training. That's not even incorporating the thousands who try to get a contract. The probability is pretty low. But where some saw a mountain of impossibility, I saw a window of opportunity. Sir Edmund Hillary, when he went to climb Mount Everest, he didn't even know that it could be done. And then I really felt the surge of my superpower. Fast forward a little bit further, as I'm about to go into Hell Week. And I just want to pause for a second to share with you how much this moment for me is full circle. Because there's some guys in the room that actually went through training with me. And so I'm just so honored to be here with all of you this afternoon. And so as we're about to go into Hell Week, we're waiting in the classroom on Sunday night, about to go, if you don't know what Hell Week is, we're about to go on a 5-day experience that will test a man greater than he's ever been tested, where we'll run over 200 miles. We won't sleep but maybe 2 hours in that time. And as we're waiting for it to begin. The conversation goes as conversations often go among students. Do you think you'll make it? Do you think you'll finish Hell Week? And there was a secret I'd been keeping for a long time. Someone finally asked me, "Garret, do you think you'll make it?" And I said, not only will I make it through training, not only will I finish Hell Week, on Saturday morning, I'm going to go for a run. And I can't tell you the level of disgust that I felt. I felt like I was back in my recruiter's office because I heard it again. "You're an arrogant punk. How do you know?" A lot of people in this room have been asked that question. How do you know? I knew we were at the brink of the test, so without wanting to have that conversation, I just said, we'll have to wait and see. But 5 days later, or one really long day, as a lot of people describe it, we did see. I remember the moment very clearly. We were facing the ocean, continuing to do PT drills, and all of a sudden the atmosphere changed. The instructors stopped yelling at us, and they gave us the command to put our boats down, and then they told us to turn around. I turned around, I saw the American flag. I saw all my instructors standing up on a berm, and the lead instructor through a bullhorn said to the entire class, "Class 286, Hell Week is secured." And then we came in and circled up around a knee, and the admiral over all the West Coast circled us up. We're there listening to him. He's giving us his speech. Again, I'm very fortunate. Most people don't get pictures of their class. And I'll never forget the words that he said. He talked about the opportunity that lied before us. He talked about everything that we'd gone through. He talked about all of the odds that we'd faced to get to this moment. And then he said some words that I've been waiting to hear for a very long time. At this point, it was over a year where I was the only one that believed in what I knew I was capable of. And the Admiral said, "Well done." And that's when I knew. He said, "Well done," and that's what I'd been waiting to hear for a long time. Not telling me good job. What he was saying was, it's possible. What other people don't think is possible is possible. And 24 hours later, like I'd promised myself, I went for a run down the beach, where many men are on crutches, even some are in the ICU, and that's not saying, hey, Garrett's great. I went for that run not to relish in glory. I went on that run because I was mesmerized at 20 years old to have dreamed a dream and seen it come to pass. And I know some of you in this room have felt that before. And if you're familiar with the beach at Coronado, I stopped on the rocks for a little while. It was actually raining, and it was foggy and cold, but I stopped on the rocks because I didn't want to forget that moment. And that's when I knew. That's when I felt my superpower. My superpower is not courage. My superpower is perspective. It's the way that I see the world. Because people will tell you what you see is wrong. But the question of most leaders, the question of CEOs and founders is, what do you see? And the truth that I discovered while I was sitting there on the rocks by myself, just blown away at the possible, truly, because everyone had told me it can't be done. Where they saw a low probability, I saw a possibility. And I sat there and I thought about it, and I realized this truth, that yeah, if I let it, what other people see, it can influence me. But if I'm not afraid of it, what I see can influence reality. Every single person here has the ability to change this world and to change reality by what you see. People will tell you you're wrong. People will tell you that you're arrogant. And people will tell you that you're crazy. And you can just smile and say, I guess we'll see. There's a really wise man, and David talked about it. His name's Seneca. I'm not crazy, I promise. And you might be wondering, is this delusion? I'm about to present you something that's very important. It's a choice. Like I talked about at the beginning, I gave you my disclaimer. I said, if you're going to hear this and then not act on it, it'd be better that you had not known. I'm going to give you a choice that you're going to have to make, whether you accept this truth or not. I didn't make this up. I just discovered it. Seneca said this a few thousand years ago. We suffer more in our minds than in reality. So if we can suffer more in our minds than in reality, is it not also possible? I'm asking you. You have to answer this question. I've answered it for myself. If we can suffer more in our minds than in reality, and every single person in this room has done that, if we can suffer more in our minds than in reality, is it not also possible that in your mind it can be easier than it is in reality? You have to answer that question. There's another really wise person named Viktor Frankl, and I would encourage you to read his book, Man's Search for Meaning. In his book and in his story of overcoming the struggles and the terror of the Holocaust, he discovered this truth for himself. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is the power to choose. And in that choice lies our freedom and our greatness. You get to choose between stimulus and response. You have the power to choose your thoughts, and you have the power to choose your feelings. One of the greatest qualifications of a team is equanimity. We can talk more about that later. Charlie Munger also says one of the greatest classifications of an investor is the ability to control his temperament, which is equanimity. And the SEAL team's equanimity is, do you panic when you're getting shot at? But it's so much more than that. Do you have the ability to control your emotions? when there's no evidence before you saying that it's going to happen, when in fact everyone around you is telling you you have no chance. It's not going to work out in your favor. You don't have the money to make payroll. The people that you need are not going to show up for you. What do you see? That is the question that you have to answer for yourself. And between stimulus and response, what happens to you and what comes out of you. Like the other speakers said, input and output. The only thing that you can control in this world are your own choices, are your own thoughts, are your own feelings. Everything else lies in the world of uncontrollables. But we spend our time, our energy, our effort, and emotion worrying about the things we can't control. What will it be like if I can't make payroll? And you don't even come to that point. But you spend all this fear, you spend all this energy wasted thinking about a future that never happens. What do you see? That's the question that you have to answer for yourself. And you have to, if you want the superpower, because you can't have mine. But if you want this superpower for yourself, you have to decide, do you believe what I'm telling you? Do you believe that you have the power to choose your thoughts and choose your feelings? Because if you don't, God bless you and I can't help you. There's nothing that I can do for you if you don't think that you can control what's in here. But I'm telling you, like Viktor Frankl says, in that choice is our freedom and our growth. Like my dream of flying as a child, so much better than that is the freedom that I have, that I get to choose my thoughts. Nobody can tell me how to think or feel. Do you believe that for yourself? I'm going to close by giving you 3 things, because my superpower is my perspective. And there's some men in here and women in here who have that same superpower. They have the ability to see a world that other people can't see before it happens. And they'll call you delusional and they'll call you arrogant. But what do you see? I'm going to give you 3 filters or 3 perspectives that I have. A perspective is seeing the world in a different way. And before I give you these perspectives, one last thing I want to add, the things that build your perspective. Knowledge, experiences, values, and beliefs. That's most of them. Knowledges and experience can be wrong and misleading. I would encourage you to build most of your perspectives on your values and beliefs. Values, the things that you care the most about, and beliefs, the things that you know that are true that you can't prove. Build your perspectives on that, not on information that's given to you, not just on experiences that can be misleading. So I want to give you 3 perspectives that I have in this world, and you should have many. And I encourage you to adopt a process of writing and documenting your perspectives on the world and understanding which ones to keep and which ones to discard. Because there's also some painful and poisonous perspectives that are happening in this country right now. So choose the perspectives that are going to create the world you want to see. Let me give you the 3 most powerful perspectives I have. First one's called infinite potential. It comes from 2 statements that became beliefs for me. 2 statements that I heard early on in life. Like I said, I'm very fortunate. I had parents that taught me how to think. And more than speaking to some founders and CEOs, if there's any parents in here and you have children, teach them how to think. Ask yourself, who taught you to think the way that you think? Don't leave your children in that same position. Teach them to think. I don't have very much to offer in this world that's mine. Everything that I have to offer are things that people have given me. Like I talked about Joe. He's given me so much, and all I can do is give you that. So let me give you these perspectives. 2 statements from my parents. The first one, and most people have a hard time swallowing this, so I'll say it a different way if you can't take it. I heard this since I was 5 years old. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I heard it over and over and over again. And because I heard it so many times, eventually I was able to see it. My parents said, God has a plan for your life. And if you struggle with that statement, if you're done when I say God has a plan for your life, let me put it in a little more palatable perspective for you. Your life has a purpose if you believe it. You were meant to do something in this world that has nothing to do with you. Your life is not about you. Don't waste your life. That's called purpose. And then the second thing that's a part of infinite potential. My father would say this all the time. And again, you can accept this or you can throw it out. It's my perspective. It's gotten me this far. My father would say, you can have anything you want in life as long as you're willing to pay the price for it. You can have anything you want in life as long as you're willing to pay the price for it. And I now pair that with Ray Dalio's great anecdote or great quote, you can have anything, you just can't have everything, but that's an aside. If you don't have the same respect for my father that I do because you don't know him, Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that statement is self-proving. You can accept that statement or you cannot. If you believe it, it'll be true for you. If you don't, it's a falsity. So purpose, God has a plan for your life. And whether you think you can or you think you can't, that's called possible. When you put purpose and possible together, that's called infinite potential. My life has changed over and over and over again because I never quit believing and I never quit seeing what I know is true. The things that I can't prove, but I see it within me. If you want infinite potential, you're going to need purpose in your life and you're going to need possible. The second thing, and this one is a little bit simpler, but just as powerful. I learned this in the SEAL teams. There were a lot of cold, miserable days in the SEAL teams, in SEAL training, but we would always laugh about this, we would talk about this and say, could always be worse. When it was cold, it could be colder. When it was raining, it could be raining harder. If you owe $1 million, at least you don't owe $2 million. It could always be worse. And with that thought process, we would allow ourselves to go there. And I know there's some peers in the room that know exactly what I'm talking about. You start listing all of these things that like, well, it could be 30 degrees instead of 40 degrees. Well, I could have no breath in my lungs because you get to experience that in training. You won't put breath in your lungs at the top of your gratitude list until you have it taken away from you. And so now at the top of Garrett's gratitude list is breath in my lungs. But you start listing all these ways that it could be worse in your life, and what you realize is that you just made a list of all the things that you're grateful for. And so the power that I have in my life is every time I face suffering, every time I face struggles, I get to choose the way that I think and feel about that. I get to choose to make my suffering an opportunity to make me grow, an opportunity to make me better. You can look at the pain in your life and let it pull you down, or you can say, thank God I get to do this because I'm going to be stronger on the other side of it. The last way of thinking that I want to give you, I call it squeeze the lemon. I heard it from a sage in my life as a little boy, but it didn't mean anything to me at the time until I went to a world called the SEAL teams where everyone is a super alpha, and I was just a young guy, and I met a bunch of people who didn't know the word enough. Most of the SEALs and most of the special operators that I knew, they joined the military searching for something, but they didn't know what it was. And so they never said enough. They always ran the extra mile, not for an award, but just because they could. They took the extra drink because they didn't know when they were going to get another. They made the phone call because they didn't know when they'd get another chance. And so by spending my time around a bunch of people who treated every day like it was their last, I've learned how to live way more life in a shorter amount of time. When I speak in a bunch of different places, and when I speak to young people, this is the one that I share with them the most. Squeeze every drop out of your life within you. Whatever your thoughts are, whatever's in your heart, let me tell you, there's more inside of you than you think. When you go to make a glass of lemonade and you squeeze the lemon the first time, you don't get all of it. Squeeze every drop out of your life. You're not going to get another one. Squeeze every drop out of the passion that's in your heart. Squeeze every drop out of your business, out of every moment with your family and the people that you cherish. You don't know when you're going to get another chance. So I can tell you, if you'll treat life that way as an opportunity, if you'll squeeze the lemon, you will live an incredible life. And like I said, if this blesses your business, if this helps you to think better as a leader, that's great. But what we need in this world is people who know how to live well. If you can live well, you can lead well. So I would just remind you to choose your thoughts, and you can choose your life. Last thing I'll say, I'm done. Don't be afraid. This has nothing to do with my talk, but let me just tell you this, and maybe it's for someone. Fear serves you nothing. There's nothing in this world that fear will give you. Fear will only take from you. So stop being afraid. Like Seneca said, we suffer more in our minds than in reality. Stop choosing suffering. It's a foolish way of living. Thank you. That's my time. I'm probably way over time.